Every story has a beginning. Some begin with laughter, others with loss. But Zainab's story began with a bus ride and a heart full of silent prayers. Zainab stepped off the crowded bus, her feet meeting the cracked pavement of the city for the first time. She clutched a worn-out bag in one hand, and in the other, the weight of her dreams. The city buzzed around her like a restless drum. Cars honked, traders called out, and children weaved through traffic with trays of bananas balanced on their heads. It was loud. It was alive. And to Zainab, it was the beginning of something new. She turned slowly, scanning faces, until she saw her. Aunt Taiwo, dressed in a bright wrapper, her eyes warm and her arms open wide. She looked like sunlight after a storm. "Zainab," she beamed. "You're finally here, my sweet girl." Zainab ran into her embrace, the kind of hug that whispered, "You are safe. You are home." Behind her, 3 curious children peeked out from the compound. Her cousins. They stared, whispered, then giggled. Zainab gave them a shy smile. Inside, the courtyard was alive. A mango tree stood tall in the center, dropping golden fruit like blessings from the sky. The walls were painted in faded pastels, and the floor bore the footprints of many years and many stories. Zainab followed her aunt through the house, every room holding scents of pepper stew and groundnut oil, every wall echoing past laughter. But in the shadows of the doorway stood a man. Tall. Quiet. Eyes like a still lake. Adisa. Aunt Taiwo's husband. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. Just nodded. "Welcome," he said. His voice was steady. His eyes, unreadable. Zainab nodded back, unsure how to feel. That evening, laughter filled the house like a favorite song. Plates of hot jollof rice passed around, cups of zobo spilled with joy, and stories danced through the air like fireflies. Zainab's cousins wrapped around her like vines, asking about village life, her favorite foods, the goats she used to chase, the river she swam in. They laughed. She laughed. Even Taiwo laughed, her joy spilling from the kitchen. Zainab thought, maybe, just maybe, this is where I'm meant to be. The next morning, she was up before the sun. She helped Taiwo wash vegetables, grind peppers, stir the bubbling pot. "You have good hands," Taiwo said. "You'll be just fine here." Later, they went to the market. The world exploded with color, red peppers, golden yams, piles of cloth, towers of okra. Zainab's eyes darted everywhere, overwhelmed but delighted. Back home, Adisa helped carry the bags. He said nothing. But Zainab felt something in the silence. A presence too heavy, too near. Still, she pushed it aside. That night, under the mango tree, her cousins begged for stories. Zainab told them tales of trickster tortoises, moon spirits, and brave girls with clever minds. They clapped. They cheered. The stars watched quietly from above. And Zainab whispered a prayer. "Thank you for this new beginning." But beginnings are only part of the story. Because sometimes, even a quiet shadow can grow loud. Sometimes, even a kind smile can hide something else. And sometimes, even under a mango tree, a girl must learn how to fight for her voice. Zainab didn't know it yet, but the journey ahead would test every ounce of her courage. For now, she smiled. But the stars had already seen what she had not. And that is where our story begins. The first time Zainab felt the shadow, the day began just like any other. Roosters crowed before the sun rose. Kerosene lanterns spluttered their final breaths. Taiwo's laughter floated in from the kitchen as she fumbled with the grinding stone. "Zainab, bring me that bowl of water," Taiwo called, her voice warm as fresh bread. Zainab swept the compound, the coarse straw broom whispering over red earth. She washed sticky school uniforms at the basin, humming an old village song. Nearby, the children chattered about their day ahead. From the corner of her eye, she saw Adisa. He stood in the doorway, the rising sun painting half his face in gold, the other half in shadow. His arms were folded, his lips pressed into a line she'd come to notice. "Good morning," he said simply, no smile, no warmth. "Good morning, Uncle," Zainab replied, dropping her sweep and bowing her head. That unease in her belly told her she'd felt something, even as she told herself it was nothing. That evening, the compound grew quiet. Taiwo had slipped off to the market for kerosene, the children snored in their mats. Zainab sat by the wooden table rinsing plates, her fingers pruned by soapy water. Footsteps stuttered on the floorboards. Slow. Heavy. Adisa appeared in the doorway. The lantern light flickered across his face. "You work hard," he murmured. Zainab swallowed. "Yes, sir," she whispered, keeping her eyes on the basin. He stepped closer. "You're growing into a beautiful young woman." Her heart thundered. She turned the plate in her hand so hard it cracked. "I should go rest." His shadow filled the room. "Zainab," he said softly, "you don't need to be afraid of me." Her throat tightened. Of course she was afraid. That night, she lay awake beneath the zinc roof, the ceiling fan humming above her like a wounded bird. Tears slipped down her cheeks, tears for fear she had never known, for trust that had broken, for the home she once believed in. When dawn tiptoed in, Adisa kissed Taiwo's forehead in front of the children, all smiles and gentle words. To them, he was kind. To Zainab, he was a storm she could not outrun. A few days later, after Taiwo applied shea butter to the children's cracked heels, she slipped out again for supplies. Zainab gathered the empty tin and turned to dump it in the yard. A voice stopped her. "Zainab, come here." She froze. Spinning around, she saw Adisa's silhouette in the hallway. No greeting. No gentle words this time, only silent demand. She clutched an old wooden spoon like a shield. "No," she said, voice quivering but firm. He took a step forward. "Come." Her voice sharpened. "No." Then her arm shot up, spoon raised like a sword. "I said, no." Silence fell. The spoon trembled in her hand. Outside, the compound gate creaked. Taiwo's footsteps pounded on the earth. Adisa backed away, blending once more into the dusk. Zainab's chest heaved. It was the first time she had shouted for herself. By dawn's first light, she had packed a small bundle, her school books, a faded dress, and a slip of paper with her mother's number. Taiwo found her at the foot of the mango tree, branches heavy with dew. "Taiwo," Zainab said, voice strong and low, "I have to leave." Taiwo's hand trembled on her chest. "Leave?" Zainab nodded. "I can't stay where my voice is stolen." Taiwo's eyes filled with tears, first disbelief, then anguish, then fierce pride. "My husband," she whispered. Zainab met her gaze. "I told you everything. I needed you to believe me." Wind stirred the leaves above. The sky had turned slate gray, as if nature itself held its breath. Taiwo closed her eyes, bowed her head. When she looked up, her face shone. "You are brave, Zainab. Braver than I ever knew how to be." That morning, Zainab walked away without looking back. Each step on the red dirt was heavy, and yet each step was hers. The first step toward her own voice. And as the rooster crowed once more, Zainab realized, shadows may whisper, but a single no can light the brightest dawn.